Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the AEW review for the 4th of November, 2020, 3 days before the pay per view Full Gear for this year. Lots of stuff that I enjoyed on the show and the stuff I didn't. I feel like I say this every week. It's either really good or really bad. There's very little in AEW that is middle of the road. It's either really well done or really bad. Show opens with Dasha Gonzalez interviewing Chris Jericho, who puts over the MMA success of Jake Hager last week. Will be interesting to see if they actually put over a loss, should he have one. MJF and Wardlow approach Jericho. Jericho calls MJF soft, and he's not sure he has the killer instinct for the Inner Circle. Then we move into the tag match. MJF and Wardlow defeat Sammy Guevara and Ortiz. I'm not a fan of this. I've soured on Guevara because of the Matt Hardy stuff. Ortiz and Santana have never done anything for me. MJF teases starting off the match, tags in Wardlow. Wardlow does power spots, cuts Ortiz off. They work over Ortiz in their half of the ring for a while. Guevara gets a hot tag. He hits a dive over the top and a secondary flip dive. MJF and Guevara ended up the legal men in. They have a okay exchange. Thumb to the eye by MJF. Gets things going back his way. Guevara comes back with the GTH. Wardlow breaks up a pin attempt. Guevara doubled up on interfering. Ortiz and Guevara go for tandem suplexes on MJF. Wardlow cuts them off and hits a stacked up superplex powerbomb. Wardlow gets a tag, nails the F10 on Ortiz. Guevara breaks that up. Guevara rolls the outside, gets a chair thrown at his head by what ends up being Matt Hardy in a Serpentico mask. Guevara is out of it. Salt to the earth on Ortiz for the submission. At least MJF won. Match feels a little clunky. Obviously, I'm of the opinion MJF is going in the Inner Circle to add some tension and depth to their story. MJF goes after Jericho post-match. Was surprised by this. Tony Schiavone does a sit-down interview with Omega. Omega says he's relocated to Jacksonville to focus on winning on Saturday. Cuts a promo and said he's destined to win the tournament and become AEW champion. Please, no, never. If that happens, I think it's a step backwards for AEW. I'd put MJF there before. I would put Hangman Page there before. I'd put Miro there before. Heck, I think I'd put Darby Allin and Cody there before. Omega is so far down on my list of people that I would put in that championship position. Miro with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford defeats Trent with Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor. Not a fan of this match. This is Miro's, according to the announcers, first singles match in 9 months. 9 months, almost a year of his career wasted, and you give him this? Some C string, maybe B string if we want to be kind, individual. Who can have good matches, but he's not at the level that Miro should be at for a first singles match. They show the highlights of the feud. Excalibur moderates some of that. They basically say that Trent was Miro's kind of mentor when they were in FCW together all those years ago. Not anyone really cares about this. Trent does make a decent comeback a couple of times. Miro begins dominating early. Chuck and Sabin go out on the outside. They get chased away. Penelope Ford and Orange manage to confront each other. Orange puts Penelope sunglasses on. Yay for comedy that doesn't matter. Dark Order runs out, attacks Cassidy. Miro manages to get them to go away. Trent comes back with a clothesline, a half and half suplex, which doesn't make sense on a guy Miro's size. Dive over the top by Trent. Trent hits a DDT and a running knee strike for a near fall. Miro cuts Trent off with a high kick and then uses the game over for the submission. At least the right guy won, but not the way you use a guy like Miro in this position. Chuck and Kip run back in. Sabin and Miro laid out Chuck and Trent. Cassidy hits a dive off the post to take out Miro and Sabian. So basically, Orange Cassidy is bigger than Miro in terms of impact. Not a fan. JR sits down with Hangman Page. I like this. Page shows up, drink in hand. I don't mind that either. Page says he's going to kick Omega's tail. On Saturday, JR says he thinks he's nervous. He's trying to take the edge off with alcohol. Page admitted that he is in fact nervous. He's trying to downplay it. JR basically hypes moderation. If they care about this company at all, Page wins on Saturday. The fact that they're basically huge fans of Omega for reasons I don't understand tells me that probably Omega wins on Saturday. They hype a package, FTR and the Young Bucks, Matt Hardy, Arn Anderson, Taz, and SCU all comment. Pretty well 50-50 on who's going to win. Taz comes out, cuts a promo for Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Taz says that he tried to get a word with Tony Khan earlier today, and he said he kept getting sent away. Taz says he believes in Khan's ranking system. Starks should be ranked, and Cage is number one in the rankings. He said that Cage is basically says the ranking system makes no sense. I agree with this. Taz says that Cody versus Darby on Saturday is about friends getting what they want, and he said that Cody talks about doing the work, but Team Taz talks about doing the work. Taz promises that the Team Taz group is going to make an impact on Saturday. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with Cage being the next TV champion if you're not going to push Darby, which I think you should. If you're not, Brian Cage is reasonable. Ricky Starks is reasonable. I have no problem with any of that. Private Page enters with Matt Hardy for their match with the Bucks. Guevara attacks Hardy. And then we go to Bucks and Private Party. My gosh, how far both of these teams have fallen. The first AEW match ever was Bucks and Private Party, and they at least looked okay. Now it's just a year later, it's like, who outside of fans who are going to be into anything the Bucks do, and outside of AEW fans who don't expect improvement, who's going to care about this match? I mean, the match was fine for spot. The story is basically the Bucks barely get by with a win. So they've got a championship match on Saturday, but they can barely beat an opening match to mid-card team. Both teams back and forth, hit a bunch of double teams. Private Party hit some dives. Bucks are in control before a break. Private Party starts a comeback. Nick looked to make a tag. Matt's ankle's acting up. He couldn't tag in. Private Party hits the gin and juice for a near fall. Bucks go for the Meltzer driver. Can't get it together. Cassidy pulls Nick off the apron. And Quinn and Matt trade cradles for some near falls. Bucks hit the BTE trigger. And Matt pins Quinn. Now, here's a question. If you're selling that you have one ankle injured, why are you doing a knee spot to get the win at all? Even if it is the other knee, your ankle's going to hurt no matter what leg you use. Stupid. After the match, FTR and Tully run in. They teased basically Pillmanizing the ankle of Matt. Hangman Page runs out first. Now, I find that interesting. He's a bigger babyface in that situation than Kenny Omega. Omega comes in late. Page goes to could have hit Omega with the chair, but doesn't. Omega requires me to get my phone. I'll be back in just 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
A customer is ready to speak with you. This customer is calling your listing in. Voices from beyond. This customer has 3 minutes of talk time. Connecting you now. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, this is Scott. How can I help you?
Hi, Scott. This is the...
And so again, I mean, and my apologies for my phone picking up about 15 minutes of my last conversation there. It's not worth re-recording the whole thing for that. In any event, at the end of the day, this comes down to a real situation of, they're trying to force things forward, and the Bucks. You've written this story in a negative light in the sense of, number one, Adam Page is more a star than Kenny Omega is ever going to be in the United States, but AEW doesn't want to see that. Secondarily, the Bucks might have been stars 15 years ago, but shouldn't be stars maybe even 10 years ago. Maybe we stretch it to 5 years ago, but shouldn't be stars and executive vice presidents in the same company at the same time. So either they've got to step away and be completely wrestlers, which they're not going to do, or they've got to take themselves out of the title picture, which they should do. But if that was the plan all along, then they should have been building other teams along the way. At the end of this, what you really have is if FTR loses, you lose all the momentum you have from building them as a team, or most of it. And, Omega and Page has a larger upside in getting over with a national television audience than Omega ever would, because Omega wrestles a more Japanese style, and that's not going to connect with a full-time audience long term. And Omega's older than Page, so if you're going to build around somebody, it should be the younger guy that has the better upside. John Moxley and Eddie Kingston go face-to-face. They announced that in the opening segment that if they touch, the match is off. Kingston did, this deal where, there's a strong promo here. Kingston said he's going to take the title from Moxley and take it back to his mom. Moxley said he's happy for Kingston getting the opportunity. Kingston made a promise he couldn't keep to his mother in terms of bringing home the championship. Moxley says he'll win on Saturday and make Kingston say, I quit. This is great. And I'm doing it less justice. But basically, Moxley said, I was in your house. I sat at your table with your mom. I promised to take care of her. I can't keep that promise because you're making me break that promise, is basically what he said. This is worth going out of your way to see. A video package of Pac airs. Pac says he's gotten bigger, faster, and stronger. That's fine if he's coming back with a purpose, not so if they don't know how they're getting him there from here. Alex Marvez is backstage. They could let him go and it wouldn't matter. Tell me in the comments why it would matter. Dustin Rhodes starts to cut a promo. Bunny walks in, thanks QT Marshall for the gifts, and said his credit cards are maxed out. Butcher and Blade run in and attack the Nightmares with weapons. Natural Nightmares and Butcher and Blade announced for next week. Okay, so Nyla Rose defeats Red Velvet with Brandy Rhodes, and Nyla Rose has Vicky Guerrero. Akira Shida is in the front row for the match. I don't understand. Nyla Rose didn't work, and it's an experiment that failed at best. Maybe it got over 30%, 40%, but it didn't work. And when you're trying to build a women's division, you have to give good matches every time out. I don't see where Rose and Shida are going to have a good match come Saturday. I don't see where that's good for the division. Rose dominates with power spots early. Red Velvet, who is there because she's Brandy Rhodes' friend, I guess. Tries a top rope Rana. Rose catches her and hits a beast bomb. Rose pulls her up after a 2 count. Rose then taunts Sheeta by hitting her running knee. 1, 2, 3. Vicky cuts a promo post match. She basically says Velvet is pathetic for coming out with Brandy, and basically they have a new title for Brandy, Chief Officer of BS. Vicky cuts a promo on Sheeta. They have a pull apart. Vicky's more charismatic than most of the women they have on the roster. Hype video airs for Omega and Paige, highlights, and they do a music video. It's kind of okay. Penta and Ray Phoenix is announced for next week. Don't understand why they're doing this. Darby hype video airs. Alan runs over a guy wearing a Cody mask with a car. This is just goofy. Alan's shown sitting in the crowd doing a Dark Tormented Soul deal. Dark Order enters. Main event is next. Why? Right before a pay-per-view is the Dark Order in your main event. This makes no sense. Cody, Billy, and Austin Gunn with Arn Anderson defeat Colt Cabana, John Silver in 10. Billy Gunn at like 55, 57, 59 years old. Why is he main eventing the show before a pay-per-view? Cody and Silver start off. Cody takes over. Austin tags in, cuts off Cabana. There's a comedy sunset flip spot. And then Billy gets a hot tag, hits a famouser on 10 for near fall. Match breaks down, everyone's in the ring, everyone hits big moves. Cody hits a dive to the floor on Cabana. Silva goes to top rope on Cody, gets caught and thrown into the crowd. This is just dumb. Austin hits Crossroads on Cabana and then hits a quick draw on 10 for the pin. Austin Gunn getting a pin on Dark might matter. Austin Gunn getting a pin on Dynamite on a non-pay-per-view week might matter. Austin Gunn getting a pin on Dynamite on a pay-per-view week does not matter. Rest of Dark Order appears. Silver grabs a chair. Cassidy runs out, cuts him off. Cassidy hits Silver with the orange punch. Cody closes the show with a good promo. Cody says he doesn't like hearing false stories. He says that Alan's claim that TNT wouldn't want him as the face of TNT is not true. Cody said TNT would love to have him. Cody would love it too if things were different and he wasn't the champion. Cody said he's the one that floated Darby's name and had to wrestle him himself to get him the opportunity. He said, Cody that is, said that he's the one that left his employee, went to war and won, and Darby needs to stop lying. Cody said that Alan wants to be the ace, but he's not the ace, and we close the show. Not against this being a closing segment per se, but I don't know why it had to be with that main event. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to the pay-per-view, and they did, let's say if they had 10 segments, I'd say they did 7 to 8 out of 10 well, but there's still stuff here that could have been thrown away completely. Anyway, until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.